Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I'm going to talk about is marriage. More specifically, there are some things that you probably should know before you get married. As many of you know, or maybe you don't know, this year in September, I will be celebrating 25 years of marriage. While I say that not for any type of applause or pats on the back, I will say that it is very hard, but also very rewarding as well, as I always say. And I've enjoyed these 25 years. But I never want to come on and speak like I'm an authority because my path was just my path. It doesn't work necessarily for everybody. But the thing that I want to convey is just some of the things that you should think about. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. I have a guest. Today's guest is a stranger to you, but not a stranger to me. Me and this young lady go back. I want to say we started being friends back when I was in the 9th grade and she was in the 10th grade. We were at Wilson High School in Florence, South Carolina. This is one of my best friends. We literally grew up together. She is a actress. She is a hustler. She's an entrepreneur. She also is a fellow podcaster. Her podcast appears on Facebook. It's called Words Between the Sheets. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming in to the 12 Kyle podcast for the first time ever, my homegirl, Marie. Marie, what up?
Hey, Kyle, about time. You put me on your podcast after 35 years, but go ahead.
This is how we start, man. After I give you that intro.
Yeah, I know that was a thank you. Thank you. That was a wonderful intro.
Listen, I mean, we do go back, and you did, kind of harass me about the podcast, but I told you before, the offer stood. You had a open offer. You so busy, man. I'm glad you had time for your boy.
Don't play me.
I mean, last time I checked, you was on a movie set. I mean, that's the last time I asked you to be on the podcast.
No, you did.
The next thing I know, you're in some TV show with Sanaa Lathan. I'm like, okay, wow. Wow, must be nice. But welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I got you on. We're going to talk a little bit about marriage and some of the things that people should know going into marriage. Full disclosure, my friend Marie here has been married. Not once, but twice. And she is now divorced. Not single, not looking to mingle, correct?
Correct.
So she's spoken for, but she has a very interesting perspective on marriage, as I do, as so do I. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So before we get started, Marie, I guess I want to start with people, getting married. And you can feel free to, divulge as much or as little of your experiences as you'd like. When I think about marriage, the first thing I think about is like counseling. When people go for the pre-marriage counseling, couple of questions. One, did you have the pre-marriage counseling with like a marriage counselor or a pastor or someone like that? And then two, what do you think is that a positive or negative, is something that people should do?
I think it is what people should do. Like my first marriage, my ex-husband was from Senegal and he was Muslim. So that was sort of tricky because he didn't believe in going into a church, far less talking to a pastor. We did have a meeting with the pastor that married us. And he, it was like you couldn't say Jesus and all that stuff in the vows. So that one, but he did counsel us and everything. And I think it is good. Even with the second one, we went to counseling. I think we should have went more than one time. But that one. The second marriage, it was American, but he really didn't like. To me, I find like most men do not want to go to marital counseling.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of them say they just didn't want to go. That's why. It was more the woman taking lead and say we need to go to marital counseling. I think if we would have went to more sessions, we may still be married. Not because clearly, with me being divorced, neither one of them listened to what the pastor said. So,
Well, I have a question. I mean, like a marriage is 50-50. So
yeah, I know.
Okay, so you can't blame.
I'm
You
not
can't say
blaming the
okay.
divorce or
I just
anything. I'm
want
just saying I felt like we needed to go more than one or two sessions.
right. Okay.
He, with the second marriage, he just wanted to go to a one and done. That's what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Literally one and done. He like, yeah, I don't want to go there anymore. And I mean, that's what he said. So it is what it is.
Wow.
But I really think that, I mean, I've gone to couple counseling with who I'm dating now. Go to counseling and stuff virtual. So, and I find that it does help our relationship, and it just builds and builds, and we go to church together and things of that nature also. So that helps also, because literally that's what the pastor been preaching on for the last 3 weeks is marriage. So yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I told you this, but like we did the marriage counseling before we got married, but we only had one session too.
Oh, is that what we? Oh, okay. I wanted more than one, but
well,
I mean, ours was counseling by myself. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, here's the thing. Ours was different because, and it was probably going to be one session because, we lived here in Atlanta, but we got married in South Carolina, in Sharice, my wife's grandparents' hometown. And so we had to make the trip. So it wasn't like, the pastor was local or we were local. So that may have had something to do with it. But, and again, I'm not sure if I told you this, but I'll tell you this now on the podcast. I remember we were sitting there, we were having this interview or whatever with this pastor, and we're getting, it's going pretty good. And we get probably about halfway through the conversation, and he says, we said something about living together or something like that. We alluded to the fact that we were both living together because we were living together. And he was like, he just looked, he was like, this crazy look, like, you guys live together? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, I'm going to have to, decline as far as, officiating this ceremony.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, word? And so now keep in mind, I don't know Buddy. So I'm like, all right, well, and he went into why. He basically said, like, it's against his principles, his religion, for people to be cohabitating and having premarital sex, which was very presumptive because he's assuming that maybe we weren't having sex. I don't know. I mean, of course we had a kid, but
I'm about to say you had a baby. So I don't know why you.
Yeah, Dion was like one.
Yeah, I know. I
remember. So yeah, long story short, I mean, that particular thing left me kind of, I don't want to say bitter, but I was just like, I was a little pissed off about it because that's something he could have asked or figured out long before we came, and he could have had someone else sit and talk with us.
Correct.
The talk that we did have was a good talk, but and he continued on. He just said, look, he was like, I can counsel you. He was like, I just can't do this ceremony. And I was like, all right, bro, whatever. And so I was just
the same problem.
Really?
The first marriage, because when the pastor I grew up with, he found out that Muhammad was Muslim. He said he can't counsel. Wow. Or, because we were in Charlotte and we had to drive to Florence. So that my brother, my late brother that passed away, he gave me his pastor, because we had to find somebody that was going to marry somebody that was Muslim, and that was the problem we was having.
Now you said late. Now where's your brother's name? That you said late brother. I don't want anybody who's listening that knows us to get confused. What's his name?
So I don't want y'all to think it's my brother Lee, because everybody knows Lee. Lee is still got a long,
Lee's still with us.
Yeah, he's still with us. He's he's gonna have a long recovery from the
Right.
stroke. But my brother Ronald, my older
Okay.
brother,
Okay.
he's the
I just wanted
oldest.
to clarify that
Yeah,
just
let me
for the
clarify. Yeah, because I forgot everybody knows that
yeah
he was my brother. So
the
no, he's
people
doing
who are
fine.
listening who know us from back home. I don't
Yeah,
want
they gonna
anybody to
be
think
like,
like, oh man, her brother
y'all wouldn't know.
passed.
That would be probably in the paper or something. But
Right.
anyway,
Right.
and
So,
but he's
um,
doing fine.
but I found that to be interesting because like like I said, that was something that could have been discussed, and even in your situation, they could have found that out beforehand. I mean, all they had to do was look on the paper with his name on it because his name clearly wasn't an American name.
Well, he
But
told me off gate that he wasn't going to do it. So
okay,
we knew we
okay,
just had to find someone to marry us. That was the problem.
gotcha.
And
I
then with the
mean,
second marriage, it was, I didn't have any problems. Because he did ask a question during marital counseling. He's like, well, why do you want to marry her? And well, he asked me too. I said, well, I know I'm sinning for one, because we do live together. And then the answer he gave, he's like, because I love her. That's the only, he just said, because I love her, that's
hey,
why I
that's
want to
good
marry her.
enough.
And that was good enough. But
That's good
my
enough.
reason was because I was like, we're shacking, and I didn't want to shack anymore. It was either
I
get
mean,
married or kick rocks.
well, here's the thing. I think I could go into, and it's probably a whole nother podcast. I mean, just to have people who are in the pulpit and they are very judgmental and
Correct.
they are religious when they want to be religious. And I'm not speaking out against religion because I'm a religious person, but at the same time, I think that's very contradictory. But that's a podcast for another day.
Yeah.
The next question I had is like, what do you think about now as far as the pressures that a lot of people have as far as getting married? Because, and what I mean by that is, um, if you are with someone if you're grown and you're with someone for a few years, let's just say 3 or 4 years, you start coming around the family functions and everything, and they know him as your boyfriend or they know her as your girlfriend, and the family's like, hey, well, when are you guys getting married? I mean, that seems like a question that always pops up at the family functions. And then, little pressures and stuff from your friends. And then also, what you can see around you as far as like social media and things of that nature. What do you think about that, where how people deal with that? Just from I guess from a woman's perspective, the pressures of, saying I do or pushing yourself down the aisle to say I do.
For women, well, yeah, because that's what they're expected to do, is to get married. And so I would tell people from my experience to take your time. Don't let no one rush you. Because I got engaged in college, and I knew I wasn't ready for marriage because I was still in college. He had graduated, but thank God, we didn't get, we went our separate ways. But it was always pressure, like from my family, my mom, to get married. Because she liked my fiance when I was in college. She really did love him to death, but I was like,
And so
I'm
this
not getting
fiance in
married.
college is somebody that you did not marry.
I did not marry him. No.
Okay.
She said I probably should have, but she got her favorites. But
right.
For women, they're taught that you go to school, or if you don't go to school, you get married and give them grandkids, and that's what everybody was looking at me to do. Like my mom definitely wanted me to get married. My dad wanted me to get married. Like my mom wanted me to get married so she can quit paying my bills at the time when I was in college. That first year out. So she was happy I got married. As soon as I got married, she cut me off from the pocketbook. But I would tell like the young people or people that are looking to get married, just take your time. You don't let the pressure, because I did feel pressure, like because you get to a certain age and you want to go ahead and get married because that the clock is ticking on if you're going to be able to get pregnant or not.
Right.
So that's why a lot of women just rush to get married or settle, because I literally had to talk myself down the aisle the second go around. Literally 5 minutes before I walked down the aisle, like, am I going to be able to do this again? Like, I really had to have a talk with myself before I went down that aisle. And I just told my mom that other day, I said I had to talk myself into going down that aisle with the second go around.
Well, I guess maybe, I mean, like, I don't want to say, because I don't want to speak for you, I'm not going to say cold feet, but
I was almost a runaway bride. Trust me on the second one. But I was like, oh, everybody here. And
Yeah, you weren't. Don't sit there and say you was a runaway. I think, at least from the conversations that we had, because I didn't, full disclosure, I wasn't at the second wedding. I was in
yeah,
Disney World, I
best
think.
friend. But no, really, I was conflicted. It was like minutes before I was by myself. You know, everybody had went out to the suite. And I really had to talk myself. Like, am I gonna do? Because full disclosure, we had been together like 8 years prior to getting married. You know, we had been together for a long time. So, were there red flags? Of course. And that's why I was saying, like, I had to talk myself. Because you get nervous right before. Well, I always seem to have getting nervous right before I go down the aisle.
I don't get nervous.
I don't know. When I was getting my hair done the first go around, I just started crying. And the stylist, she's like, it's going to be okay. She said, you're nervous. I was like, yeah, well, that's my first time. Second time, I wasn't nervous. Second time, I was like, am I going to really go down the aisle a second time? But
I have a theory on nervousness, and I always say this, like, I would get nervous about things that I can't control. Things that I can control, I don't believe in getting nervous, because, like, you know the outcome. Like, so when you're getting married, you know that you're going to get married. You know you ain't gonna get up there and you know they say no, I don't want to get married.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. But before I went out there,
I mean, I can understand how somebody could have apprehensions. I
did. I did. I mean, you know something of the backstory, so you know I had a reason to have those second thoughts. But probably should have went on my gut. But I mean, no, I loved him. I mean, I went down the aisle because I actually did love him. So I did love him, and I was just like, for better or worse. But
exactly, that's what it's all about.
It's always more pressure for the. Well, it's pressure for the men too.
Yeah, it is
especially
a lot of pressure.
In a situation where you've been with somebody for 8 years and they hadn't proposed yet.
I mean, like, here's the thing that I'll say about that. There is pressure on guys too, because you know the guy is the one who's going to make the proposal in most cases. So when you're coming to that family function, when you're going to the cookout in the summertime, and your girlfriend's around, your uncle is going to ask, bro, why you ain't married her yet? Why y'all don't have no kids? Then your parents start saying, hey, I'm getting up there. I would like some grandkids. And so, like, it becomes a thing.
That was all, like, with the second one, that was the main thing with us. Like, when are y'all gonna get married? One person thought we were already married.
Oh, I mean, 8 years, that's a good time. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. No, go ahead. Finish that thought.
No, that was it.
Okay. One of the things I think people should do, they should know when it's time to get married. Things that they should know before they get married is themselves. How important do you think it is to know yourself before you get married?
It's very important, because you get ready to go into a union with someone. You guys are going to live together. I think you need, to me, I know it's probably ain't right, but I think you should live with the person before you get married. Hey, so you know what you're getting into. So that is very important, because you got to know yourself and you got to know that other person. Because I don't see how people get married and never live together. Now it's not Christian-like to be shacking up.
Right.
And I am a Christian, and I do believe in it. But you got to know yourself, and you have to definitely know that person. Because, when you first dating somebody, when you first meet somebody, it's a show. You're not your real self. You're an actor and an actress. And then after a couple, a while, then that.
So hold on, time. I got to stop you there. So what is the act? You don't think that people genuinely know who they are when
you are trying to be on your best behavior first date? You are not your true self. Yeah, I mean, I'm my true self, but some people are. But then you're still acting, making sure you're proper. You're doing it.
You acting right until you get the draws.
The honeymoon phase of dating. That's what I call it.
You acting until you get the draws, then everything is cool.
Not the draws. Yeah, once you get the panties, then Right. It's all
so I mean, like, I don't think I disagree with that. I think by the time you've had, I think, you're right. To your point, people can put on a front for a couple of months or whatever, but by the time you get to like 6 months, ain't nobody playing no more.
No, nobody's playing. I say you're not. That's what I'm saying. You're not your true self on your first or second date. because you're
Oh no,
trying
I
to
agree with
impress,
that.
impress, impress. But
Yeah,
that's why
I
I say
agree
you
with that.
got to real once they take that wall down on it or take that veil down, whatever you want to call it, then you know who you're dealing with. Because the first 2, 3 dates or that first month, they're gonna be on their best behavior. Or like you said, when they get the draws, then they gonna then they flip on you, or you just see who they truly are. So no,
Okay.
to me, no one is their true self when you first meet somebody on a first date.
Right. You talked a little bit earlier about waiting, so I want to kind of go back to that. Um, I think one of the things people should know that it is important to know when to get married.
Yes.
There's no exact science.
Mm-mm.
I know people who've been together for a long time and they have very short engagements. Like in my situation, we dated for I don't know, 4 years, I guess, but we literally grew because we met in college. We literally almost kind of like grew up together,
Correct.
at least our young adulthood part of our lives. So there was no pressure to walk down the aisle because we had that so much time together. But why do you think it's important to kind of go on your own time when it comes to walking down the aisle?
Because I think if you pressure someone into it, it's not gonna last.
Mm.
I think the person, the guy, because he's normally the one that's gonna propose. He knows the first time when he meets you if he's gonna marry you or not. That's what I've heard a lot of people say. Like, or did it take time? I mean, he even for this now the first one we dated 6 months and got engaged.
Yeah, that
And
was
it
short.
yeah, that was short. six
I think
months
I
and we
told you
were
that was short. I was
engaged
like,
for Christmas.
I don't know.
I know. And so but it was a year out for the wedding. We
Hmm.
were engaged and then it was like a year out for the wedding. The second one, like I said, we dated 8, 9 years and finally got married. So we were beyond taking our time. When I really wanted to take my time, but then I was at the point like every time he do something special, I'm thinking he's getting ready to propose, and he's not. I'll never forget. Like it was one Christmas when it was Christmas. His whole family was there, aunts, uncles, and he told me to come outside to the backyard. I looked behind me, his mom, aunt, all of them in the window because they're thinking that he was getting ready to
Wow.
propose.
Right,
And he said,
right.
"I got your gift out here." So I was like, "Oh, he's about." I had tears coming out my eye because I said, "This is it. This is it." He literally opened his mom's Jeep and had a desk in there. I was like, "What?" And he
That's
said
what's
he
up.
saw everybody looking, and he saw my face. He was trying to rush and get to that truck because it wasn't what it. And
I
it
mean,
was
that's.
so
I mean, like
embarrassing.
that.
Everybody tried to run away from the window when they saw they didn't see it was a
Yeah, that's
proposal.
on everybody else. That's not on him. That ain't his fault.
I was like, I remember I left and went to my uncle's house. He started laughing at me when I told him the story. He
Hey,
said, "Yeah,
that
you
is
in your
funny.
feelings." He said, "You in your
I,
feelings." I said, "I am," because
I'll
at
be
this
honest.
point,
That's funny.
it is funny. I laugh about it now. I laugh later about it. He knew I was God. I was mad.
Again, but that's expectations. That
Yeah,
that to me, I don't think that's on him. That's on everybody else with those
correct. But
expectations.
that's after 5 years of dating.
But again, you
I
have to.
know. I just had an
It's
expectation at that point. This is what it was about to be because the way you set me up to go out in that backyard and you knew your
nah,
family was
man. It
looking.
don't work like that.
I know. I think his mom knew. His mom knew, but because she knew he had put the desk in her truck, but she didn't say anything to anybody.
Wow.
So I was like, "Oh, this is so embarrassing."
So my next question: once people get married, a lot of times in-laws become involved, or not just in-laws, but family too
Mhm.
get very involved. Um, what do you think about the role that in-laws and family members play in your marriage? Because if you allow them to, they will.
Well, great. Well, I didn't really have that problem. Me and his mom and dad had a great relationship with the
I mean, just in
second marriage.
general,
But
just
in
people that you
general,
know.
like, but in laws can't interfere, and I've seen where it's been devastating, where they're like literally in every like the because that to me, if you going back telling your mom what's going on in your marriage, you putting them in the marriage and stuff,
Right.
and that's normally how they get involved. And that's one thing I do remember at my marriage, and at the wedding where the pastor was like, "Don't." put anybody in your marriage. Don't put your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, nothing like that, your in-laws, because they can destroy your marriage. And they can. Because they're going to tell you the wrong thing, and then you're going to go back and relay it back to your husband or your spouse, and y'all going to just be arguing. And so it is very important to keep family out of your relationship as much as possible.
I've seen it. I've seen it destroy marriages. And the thing I tell people all the time, like, I don't care how close you can be to your in-laws or your sister, your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, whomever. At the end of the day, they are related to your spouse. So they're going to side with them no matter what. I mean, full disclosure, like me and my in-laws are super cool. Love them to life. In the time that we've been together, I think we've only had maybe one conversation about our marriage, and that's it. And it was an unsolicited conversation because I was asked the question, and I said, I'm not answering that because whatever we got is right here. And vice versa. I never went to my. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle Podcast, hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle Podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle Podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. Parents to say, hey, she did this, or I feel like this, or no, I keep it simple because
I didn't do that either, but he did. The first husband did. He called my mom complaining about what I was cooking and stuff like that. And she actually called me and was like, what are you? She's like,
you wasn't cooking?
Yeah, I was cooking, but I had a job too. Just like, I was running OnStar.
Can you cook?
Huh?
Can you cook?
Yes, I can cook. I'm known for cooking crazy.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I was cooking. He was like, I guess, he was a finicky eater because I couldn't cook. So it was only so much I could cook for him because he don't eat pork. He didn't eat this. He don't eat. So I had to start cooking the same thing. And that's what he called and told her. And I was like, why are you calling me mommy? Well, you got to make sure you cook when you get home from work.
That's something that you got to talk about before you get married.
Too. I said, if he hungry, he'll cook. Because sometimes I'm tired when I come home from work. So.
Oh, Lord. Now, I will say this much. I mean, like, that's the type of stuff that I think you have to have conversations, multiple conversations about what the expectations are because, yeah, you're going to work and he's going to work. And, at some point, if kids are involved, the kids are always going to come first.
Correct.
And so you got to make sure that you're not, neglecting each other for the kids and vice versa. One of the things that I think that people need to know before getting married is that bad behavior becomes worse. So if your behavior was bad before you got married, it's only going to get worse once they get married. What I mean by bad behavior, that could be anything from drug and alcohol abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, all of the above, laziness, maybe how you fuss and fight, not physically, but you get my point.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is bad habits and bad traits. And that stuff does not transfer once you get married. It just only gets enhanced because now you are officially together. So what do you think about that bad behavior and how that goes with a marriage when you get
That's
married?
true because I knew like I had to work on some things because he would say that you're not at work when you come home and that I'd be trying to manage him because I was an ops manager. For us, I'm always in management, whatever I'm doing. But I would boss him like he was one of my employees. And that's
That's
something else
not
he told
good.
my mom. And she tried to like, Marie, you can't boss that man. Let him be the man of the house. I
Yeah,
said,
exactly.
well, I'm not gonna say what I said. I was like, when that paycheck it could add up to what I got making, because I was making more, way more than him. So
Does that matter?
no,
Does
it
that
don't
matter?
matter. It don't matter. But she's like, let
But you
him.
just hold on. It had to mean something because you just said it.
Cause I was young back then when I said that. I was in my
Okay.
20s. Okay.
Okay.
And I just remember that conversation. I said, well, when his paycheck match up to what I'm doing, then he might can have a say. But that was just me being me. But
Famous
of
last
course,
words.
I'm all with the second marriage, of course I made more than that person. But it never mattered to me because I married him
Right.
with what
It's
he
all
was
going
doing.
into
So
the same
it
account.
never mattered, but he just felt like, which by the time the second marriage, I wasn't being as bossy. I was letting him be a man. The
Well,
first
that's
marriage,
good.
I was letting him be a man, but that was something I knew I had to work on because I do have that, that A type personality,
Very much so.
yeah, I know, and I'm bossy, so I had to ease back, and I learned from my mistakes. But yeah, you gotta let the
Right.
man be
And
the man.
I think that's a great segue. Money obviously plays a huge
Yeah,
part. The thing that people don't understand is that when you're married, you're in a business together. You are business partners. Regardless of, even if I have my own account and you have your own account, and even if we don't pay each other's bills, we don't pay any household bills or whatever the case may be, we're still in business together.
correct. You're a team. You're supposed to be a team.
Exactly.
And I can
So
honestly say the second marriage, we weren't a team at all.
yeah, I mean that money comes into play. I mean,
Yeah.
because sometimes you'll have a lot of money, sometimes you might not have as much money, and it's really on how you adjust. So one of the things that I think people need to know is you need to know how to manage money.
Correct.
What do you think about conversations about money and how those should go about before you get married?
Yeah, I think you need to sit down with your significant other before you get married and go over all your finances and it's in accounts, all banking accounts. I think you should.
All wait a minute, all banking accounts?
Well, no, I don't. Yeah, well, I kept one a secret myself, but
See, you about to lie on this podcast.
I wasn't about to lie. Everybody gonna have their own account. Both marriages
But
had a joint
here's the
account.
difference. You said a secret account. You didn't say.
Well,
Now I have separate account. We have separate
well, I
accounts.
didn't mean to say secret. Maybe separate. That
Okay, because I
you
got
know.
my little walk around money.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like my little personal, like when I
It's
was
only
married, I had my let's
$37 in
go
there,
to the
but
mall,
I got
get my
money.
hair done money. But
Right.
I still think like you gotta realize you're a team. And normally you're gonna acquire whatever bills that each other have.
Facts.
And
Or
whether or
debt.
not that's what I'm saying, you gotta sit down and talk like, well, are you gonna help pay for this? I think you just need to have a plan. The first marriage we did, we sat down and went over all our finances. And we really didn't argue about money. The second marriage, we argued about money because we were not on the same page. And we could not get on the same page to save our lives, even though I was trying to get us on the same page, or he was, but it just, it wasn't, he didn't think of us as a team. And and I kept trying to tell him, like, we're supposed to be a team. And so we could get a house, we're going to have to be a team. We can't
Facts.
just want to do our own thing. Like, if you didn't have a car payment and I had a car payment, you needed, because that means I'm paying more bills than you're paying because I'm paying rent, mortgage, a car payment, and all of that. But I don't know. I just feel like we need to pay everything together.
Okay,
But
so am I supposed to pay your car bill? If I don't
no,
have a car
if
payment,
we both paying, I'm not saying you had to pay. It would be helpful to
why?
pay. What? So you sitting here with all this money, and then I'm struggling because I'm paying more bills than you're paying.
Hold up. Time out, Marie.
No, it ain't.
There's no reason for you to be struggling because here's the thing. if you were paying a car note, let's just say 2
I mean,
years
I was
before
paying
we.
it before him. So
Okay, so that's the point.
he didn't have a car note because he didn't have a
That's
car.
an even big. So here's the thing: if you have a, if you had a, and we're not going to talk about your marriage. I'm just going to give you
In
just
general, I'm just saying in general.
If a woman is paying her car note for 2 years, and I get with her, and I don't have a car note, why should I be expected to pay her car note just because we're married?
No, not just pay it by yourself. Pay it together. If we're trying to get a house, and one of the things on there is the car note is so high.
I don't understand that.
Okay,
why are we paying it together? You've been paying it all this time.
Yeah, and I'm still going to have to pay it off.
Exactly.
That was the problem of getting the house, was the car note.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, and I would never. I would always advise people, to.
I'm not saying he had to pay. I've been paying it myself this whole time. Yeah. But when we came together and stuff, like, he really didn't have no bills.
Well, again, I'm not talking about him. I want to. I
had a lot of, I had student loans.
Okay, so then I
was paying my student loans by myself.
Okay, so now we're coming to, so if you come into the situation with more debt than him, it's not that's almost like if I come into a relationship with a child, I should not expect my wife to pay my child support. That's my child. I got to pay the child support.
Pay your child support.
Okay, so this is the same thing.
I'm not going to say that because that was an issue, with him, that I didn't want to pay.
No, but okay. Well,
now, I'm saying in general, I've had a lot of people say, well, they'll ask me like, well, should I help him pay his child support? I mean, I've had a lot of girlfriends ask me that. I said, well,
no.
I did say no. And then somebody said, like, well, if y'all doing the bills together, if that's going to help out, where y'all not going to be arguing all the time. But I mean, for me, I didn't care. It was like, we weren't married when he was asking me to do stuff for the child, and I was like, I'm not married to you. Why would I buy school clothes?
Right. Now I agree with that.
Okay, I agree with that. He got upset about that. Literally upset. I'm buying clothes for my niece, and you can go buy clothes for your child.
Yeah, I mean, like, taking care of kids. I mean, kids are beautiful first and foremost.
Correct.
If you want to do that, that's cool, but I don't think that should be an expectation. Yeah, like I said, somebody's child support. Yeah. If you bring a child, if I'm in a relationship, I mean, I bring a child into this relationship and we're in a relationship together and it's not our child. No, I'm not going to expect you to pay. Now, it'd be different if I got behind on child support and they're threatening to lock me up or something like that. But
I'll help you,
and those are conversations that I think you have to have as far as, like you said, it's got to be multiple conversations about debt, how we're going to manage the debt, and then how we're going to plan for our financial future. And I think that's where, myself included, a lot of people slipped up at, particularly early in marriage, where you're not talking about your financial future.
Right.
If let's just say you get a bonus at work and your bonus is 10 grand and you want to take the 10 grand and go to Cancun, you could take that 10 grand and stack that and put it in you can put it over here for a rainy day. Because the thing I always say about finances and money, you should prepare for a rainy day, because one day it's going to rain. Mm-hmm. One day it's just going to be severe thunderstorms. And then one day it's going to be a full Category 5 hurricane. And you got to be able to, maintain. So I want to go back to something that I didn't mention earlier. In engagements, obviously, guys propose, or sometimes women propose, which is different. But when it comes to spending money on a wedding, not to count anybody's pockets, but do you think that there should be a max or basically some type of limitation on what someone should spend for a wedding?
Yeah. Now, see, the first wedding, of course, my mom went out. I had her purse strings, so I didn't have to worry about paying for anything. The second marriage, she said, you're on your own. And he did give me a budget, and I stayed within that budget.
Okay.
The first wedding was over, that was in the early 2000s. So that was like $23,000 that we spent on the first wedding. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you came to the reception.
I can't, yeah, because I couldn't make it to the wedding.
I know, the whole rainstorm.
Listen,
yeah.
Listen, and I don't know if it was a sign.
That's why I said it myself.
But
I was crying so bad
okay,
because we supposed to have an outside wedding and we end up having it in the mansion.
listen, and I told you I didn't think that was a good idea to have an outside wedding in July.
It's because the whole church thing with him.
Well, I get it now, but okay.
Yeah.
So y'all, for those of you listening, Marie had her first marriage. She had a wedding outside, and literally, like maybe an hour or so before the wedding's about to start, it comes down. I mean, like when I tell you it was coming, the rain was coming down so hard. Like I was driving in my car. I could not see beyond the hood. That's how bad it was coming down. Like everybody was pulled off to the side of the road with the flashing hazards on. I was just like, I told Sharice, I was like, look, we might go off the road trying to get to this wedding. I was like, let's just turn it around and go to the reception spot. And then it's like we pulled up.
Make it. They end up going to the reception.
Yeah, everybody can't. Yeah, because we were like, no, they ain't. Because we thought, like, my thought process was, they're probably going to bring the wedding here and have it here. Because but yeah, that was
it worked out because we was in Hartsville at the, I can't think of that, it was a plantation.
Like some garden or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
It was the gardens, but it had a mansion. It was like an old plantation. I hate to say that I got married at a plantation, but it had a mansion, and they didn't have the air going because it was going to be outside. So in the wedding pictures, you could see the sweat on like all the guys' forehead. It was so hot in there. But we ended up working because it stopped raining right when the wedding would start, but we didn't want to go outside and get like our dresses. I was crying. My cousin was like, please quit crying. We keep redoing your makeup.
Well, I mean, you couldn't help it because like you're getting ready for the, one of the biggest days of your lives, and it's pouring down rain like
it. In the second marriage, I was able to have the church wedding I wanted to have, but I was on a budget, and that wedding, I can't believe it was like $8,000. It looked like a $20-something thousand wedding, but it was $8,000.
It looked nice on YouTube.
Huh?
It looked nice on not YouTube. I'm sorry, Facebook.
It was really nice, and I was able to do it for $8,000.
I don't know how much we spent. Well, I didn't pay anything, but and we got married in 2000, so I can't. I don't know. It wasn't that
right
much
behind each other. So yeah.
Did you come to my wedding?
Don't play me. You don't play me about your wedding. You know I was there because y'all.
Okay, I
had a hat on.
Oh yeah, you had that big. The big hat.
Yeah, I'm like Miss Graham and my mom.
It was like a sombrero or something, right?
It wasn't no darn sombrero. You try to be funny.
Okay, so let me get back to the podcast.
Yeah, get back to the podcast.
So I to answer the question, I think the idea of spending an exorbitant amount of money is kind of wild. But I mean, I don't want to count anybody's pockets, but I think like you just mentioned, as far as like the debt of a car note, I think that debt can affect whether or not you buy your dream house or the house that you want to buy. Yeah. Same goes for a wedding, the money that you put into a wedding. And again, I'm not trying to count anybody's pockets or tell anybody what they should spend, because
be spending like $100 to $200 to $1 million.
But I mean, if you can afford it, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool, but that's just crazy.
I don't know. I mean,
live afterwards.
Yeah, I would take the $20,000 and go do something else or whatever. So, I think those are some things that people need to know before they get married. I got one more question. We'll wrap up with this.
Okay.
And this is more so after you get married. I'm pretty sure you've heard the term happy wife, happy life. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Because I don't think I've ever asked you that question.
I believe if of course, happy wife, happy life, because you want to make sure, both of you guys need to be happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it should just be happy wife, happy life. Your husband need to be happy too, because I always said she just can't be happy. Both of you guys got to be happy, or it's not going to work. Because if I'm miserable, then you're going to be miserable, because I'm going to make you miserable if I'm miserable. So, because misery love company.
Facts. Mm-hmm. Okay. I agree. I always say, like, we control our own happiness. Your spouse or your girlfriend or your fiance, whomever, they assist in your happiness. Because you could be dealing with someone who isn't happy with what they see when they look in the mirror. So there's nothing you can do if that's the case. But yeah, I agree. I always kind of shudder, when I hear that, because it's like, I think it's silly. So before we get out of here, I got one more question. From a biblical sense, we've heard about it from time to time. The idea of a couple being quote unquote equally yoked. What do you think about that?
Now, I was unequally yoked my first marriage because I'm Christian and he was Muslim, and it was sort of hard because like I would go to church and he couldn't go to church with me, or he'll be praying on his rug, his Aladdin rug. But see, he was like one of them fake. He was Muslim. Like if you ask him, he wouldn't say he was African. He would just say his nationality is Muslim.
Why you say that man was on a rug?
He was. They pray on a rug. He had his
I'm
own
sure the
little
rug
that
has
he
a
would roll
name.
out.
The way you said it just made it sound like he just grabbed some little $5 rug from Walmart.
No, I mean it's their praying
Like a
rug. I
welcome
don't know
mat.
what it was a nice little. I used to call it Aladdin.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And he didn't pray as much as he was supposed to pray anyway till his mom came to visit. And then he praying 7 times a day, and she had me dress up like I was from the motherland when she was
Okay,
here.
equally
But
yoked.
I do believe in that you need to be equally yoked because it will cause problems. Way back then, someone had us do an interview about that too. And I talked about it several years ago about being unequally yoked and the problems. You're a Christian and he's a Muslim, and it just causes problems in the marriage. So I do believe you need to be equally yoked. That's something
I don't
firmly believe in because I went through it. I'm Christian. He's Muslim.
I mean, but like, okay,
he literally sat in a car for for Sonia's wedding. He sat in the car for Sonia and Vic's wedding.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. I don't think that's a thing, because like that means like you gotta be very, very similar and like as one. And I don't think that you can be as one until you get married. And I don't think like your person
I always thought unequally yoked.
See, that's the thing. Nobody can ever define it.
To me, that's what it was defined as. You're not in the same religion.
Oh,
that's what unequally yoked is. That is basically because
that's why the pastor if we love each other.
He wouldn't marry us. He wouldn't marry because he said we're unequally yoked.
Yeah, but there are people who are Christians who are by that definition unequally yoked, because they may because they go to church. Does that make them? Well, I mean that's a whole other story. So, but anyway,
yeah, that's what, like get into unequally yoked is about different religions and different beliefs.
I just think like people are people, and I think we can kind of complicate things probably more than we probably should. But like I said, I think you have to. Marriage is something that obviously takes a lot of work, takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of love. But it's constant. It's constant work. It's work when you don't even think you're working. When you're asleep, you're still working towards your marriage. That being said, I think you got to be on the same page as far as like what you want, and that can change because sometimes. You may wake up and say, hey, I'm 35 years old and I want to be a rapper. I want to leave. I want to quit my job at the plant and I want to become the wingtip rapper.
You're having a midlife crisis.
And so, I mean, like, so it's different things that happen. But I'll say this. I think, I get what you're saying as far as religion is concerned. I just think like sometimes people beat people over the heads about it. And I think that's a little bit unfair because you're asking two people who come from vastly different backgrounds, who come together in this union and they're trying to make it work. And you're saying you have to be almost damn near perfect. And that's not, we're imperfect people. I mean, for as great as I am, I'm not perfect.
Oh, Jesus. No, you're not, Kyle. I know you think you are.
I don't think that I am. I know I'm not perfect. I'm right 97% of the time, but I'm wrong 3% of the time. On that note,
okay.
Listen, this has been a pleasure. It's been a long time coming. Marie, I know your podcast is on hiatus, but before you get out of here, tell folks where they can find you, where they can find your podcast.
You can find my podcast on iHeartRadio. When it comes back, it will be on YouTube and Facebook Live. And I normally upload it to God, I can't think of what's the green one?
Spotify.
Spotify.
The green one.
Yeah, that's normally I couldn't think of Spotify for that. I upload it to Spotify the next day. So hopefully we're coming back in July, and it's going to be Words Between the Sheet. It is adult content.
Now, when you say adult content, what y'all talking about?
Sex. Oh. And we talk about sex, relationship, the culture, and things. But
we could have talked about sex and marriage on this podcast, but we didn't. But sex is a part of marriage, folks.
Yeah, that's yeah. To stay married,
you better.
That's a big part of marriage. Is sex, yeah.
Okay. So. Well, listen. Like I told you before, you have an open invitation. Me and you go back like fat crayons and car seats. We literally go back to high school. So
yeah, we go back to high school.
I don't know, when next time you come to Atlanta, I mean
4th of July.
I'm not gonna hold my breath, but
I just told you.
But we already talked about that. So we already talked about it. So it's whatever. But anyway, I
see all your South Carolina State. I don't see my plaque up there that I had got you, that beautiful plaque I got you for Christmas
it's over there on the wall.
Oh, okay. You need to have it right
I mean, I got my jerseys back there.
Oh, that don't mean nothing.
Stop it. Well, like I said, you're more than welcome to come back anytime. You have a very interesting podcast, and as you guys can tell, we kid all the time. This is us 24/7.
Normal for us.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely want to thank you guys for coming through. This is going to do it for us. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Remember, the 12 Kyle podcast drops every Thursday and every Sunday at midnight. You can follow us and find us on all streaming platforms, including the green one, Spotify. We're also on YouTube as well. You can follow me on social media, 12 Kyle podcast across the board. We also have a new baby. The new baby is called the Rap Soul Podcast. The Rap Soul Podcast drops every Monday and every Friday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes, but mostly it's Mondays and Fridays. The Rap Soul Podcast is the best music podcast that you've never heard. And I'm going to tell you why, because we talk about hip hop, rap, soul, R&B from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. So you definitely need to check it out. It's also on YouTube as well. And lastly, if you want to contribute to this podcast financially, hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Also, we have merch. Get yourself, just look in the description box and click the merch link. Get yourself some 12 Kyle podcast gear. We have t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. Marie, you need to get yourself one, a 12 Kyle podcast coffee mug.
You can give me one for my birthday. For that sweatshirt you never got my mom.
And on that note,
over 20-something years ago.
On that note, we're gonna check up out of here. So for my girl Marie, I am your boy 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.